I am an online reseller as well as a self-proclaimed treasure hunter, but my real passion is in finding a great story. So make sure you subscribe because each week I'm bringing you my coolest finds and telling you their amazing stories. We're still in the dramatic throes of the coronavirus, which doesn't make anything any better. Some people are having private little estate sales, and so I found one woman that was having a private estate sale out on some farm in the middle of nowhere, so she's allowing like one person a week to come and look at her stuff, which is kind of amazing. I found some amazing stuff at this estate sale. I'm gonna show you what I got, but what's even cooler than the stuff that I got were the stories that she told me about the stuff that I got, and I'm still debating whether or not these stories are true. Either she was just trying to sell me some stuff, or she had the most ridiculous, amazing family in American history. It's one, it's the other. You guys are gonna help me decide. I just started digging around and I found this flatware. It's really, really cool. It's got really great swirl detailing on it. I don't know, I love vintage Bakelite anything. Flatware is super cool because a lot of it didn't survive. It goes in dishwashers, it's slammed around, it's going to picnics, pieces get lost, it cracks, it breaks, it gets melted. I don't know, people put it in microwaves, but she only wanted $1 for all of it, so I definitely grabbed all of that. But then the stories, you guys, the stories started slowly rolling in. She starts talking to me about this flatware, and it belonged to her aunt who raised her from like a very young age. That wasn't even the beginning of it. One of her family members climbed Mount Everest. Paul Bunyan was thrown in this mix at some point. Well, the flatware belonged to my aunt who raised me from a very, very young age. And they were passed down from her mother, who would also be her grandmother, gave her all of her cooking tools, and she only used those cooking tools. I don't know what's happening on this farm in the middle of nowhere, but it sounds to me like you have some cool stuff. So like, let's keep it coming. So she takes me over to this table and immediately I see this amazing Griswold skillet. So if you guys aren't familiar with Griswold, they make some amazing stuff and it's one of the most collectible cast iron brands that you can find. You can see it's got the number 8 here, it's got the Griswold mark, and then it tells you where it was made, which is Erie, Pennsylvania, USA. Now, what's cool about this particular one is this is cast iron, but it's nickel plated. So it's got like a really cool silver finish to it. Griswold has been manufactured from the 1800s up until the 1960s. So it's super important to be able to tell when the piece that you're looking at was actually made. That's gonna give you the best idea of how much your item is worth. Some of the earliest Griswold cast iron is not even gonna say Griswold. It's literally just gonna say the word Erie, which was the town that it was made in. Griswold started using this cross logo in the early 1900s. If you see the Griswold logo with slanted, cursive, or italicized letters, those were made around like 1915. So those are early 1900s Griswold cast iron pieces. This particular one is gonna be from the 1920s to the 1930s. A piece like this is gonna go for like $70 to $100. She was asking $50 on this. I was able to talk her down to $30, which was amazing. Her aunt's mom, and then her aunt's mom's mom. I asked her if she has anything else that was maybe passed down to her aunt's mom's 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 mom. So then she takes me over to this table and this thing is kind of incredible. This is from a company called Foster Brothers, and Foster Brothers made cutlery and knives and mostly these like butcher, like murder weapons from the late 1800s all the way up until the 1950s. So what's cool is you're able to date these knives based on the maker's mark. This particular one says Foster Bros, and then it's got like a little arrow symbol, and that symbol would have been from the 1800s, which is crazy, because then once you start getting into the 1900s, 1920s, and 30s, they start using other maker's marks like Foster Brothers and whatever else they had going on at that time. It's not in the best condition. It has some serious handle issues. She wanted $30 for it. She took $15. So far, she's been able to back up her stories pretty well, you guys. She's had like old skillets, old knives. Why is it my place to believe her or not? Like, she's just sharing family stuff with me, so I'm gonna just keep listening and hope she keeps bringing stuff out for me to buy. I don't know. She's telling me about this uncle who was a famous radio personality back in the 1920s, 1930s, and I'm thinking like, okay, do you have anything from him? I do have an old speaker from the 1920s. Let's see the speaker from the 1920s. Absolutely, it's pretty incredible. In the 1920s, radio is still really new, and so they were coming up with all these exciting ways to, visually make radio exciting. And so they'd have these radio speakers that had these incredible pictures on the front. And this particular one is a giant ship, and this is called the Enchanter. This would have had a whole thing on the back here originally, and it has the original wiring. This is what an old speaker would have looked like on a radio from the 1920s. She was asking $100 for this. She ended up taking $50. These things go anywhere from $150 to $300 depending on the condition. A lot of these still work, so she's kind of proving her stories. Then she goes on about like this uncle who was a famous firefighter in the 1960s who was involved in this terrible apartment fire where multiple people were killed. It was like this terrible disaster. What do you have from this uncle that was involved in this crazy fire? Well, I do have something. Step with me in my backyard. She takes me around to her backyard. Sure enough, she opens up this shed. There's just like stuff kind of scattered everywhere, but then there's this thing in front of me in multiple pieces on the floor. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, what is this? I've never seen anything quite like it. And she then explains to me that this is the beacon light from the fire truck that happened to be there on that infamous night back in the 1960s. And I'm like super skeptical, but also maybe I'm not as skeptical as I should be. It's like the beacon light and it's still in pieces. I haven't put it back together. And then you have the light inside that like spins around and it even smells very old. She wanted $50 for this. She ended up taking $30 on it. These things go anywhere from $150 to $300. So like I definitely grabbed this. Okay, if there was this crazy fire, shouldn't this have some like soot on it or like something? This is just like, it's just an old firelight. But then she shows me this. It's melted. Now, I don't know if somebody stuck this in their microwave. There's no way to tell. I don't think this woman's lying. There's a lot of information to process, but so far everything kind of checks out. This was an amazing sale to go to, you guys. Like they had vintage electronics, old cookware, and sirens from fire trucks. And so I was super happy about everything that I got. But one of the other things that I got, and something that I'm gonna be giving away to one of my subscribers, are these. You guys, she told me that these belong to the uncle that had the radio show in the 1920s. These belong to him. These can belong to you. These are antique opera binoculars. Back in the day when you'd go to the opera and you'd need to see what was going on stage, you just used these and you could tell what was happening. And you could like laugh to whoever you were. They've got something happening down there. And these are really, really old and really, really cool. They're like French glasses, you can see things through them, and then they do this. They like adjust. I don't know, they're super old, they're super cool, and they could be yours. But I wanna know, what is some crazy history that something that you own has? Is there an item that you have that has some crazy history to it, some crazy story that just seems like completely ridiculous that people wouldn't believe? Let me know in the comment section below, and I'm gonna be picking a winner in an upcoming video. It's super important that you guys subscribe so that you don't miss me calling your name, because I'm gonna call a name in an upcoming video. And when I do that, you need to leave a comment in that video so that I can get your address and ship these to you. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. As always, thank you guys for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.